get this show back on the roll, shall we? Welcome to another standoff. Today we'll be doing the needle gun versus the Tercoo disc. Let's see who gets this challenge. But first let me provide you with some more context. To create a fair comparison, I will treat both sides of the aft cabin. Both sides have an equal surface area, about 90 centimeters wide and 60 centimeters high, so roughly half a square meter per tool. Both sides have multiple layers of paint that have accumulated over the years on this steel structure. The speed is important, of course, especially with such a large job, but the final result is also crucial. The finishing, as we say. In a moment I'll show you the comparison in terms of the time spent, the result achieved, and the degree of roughness. Let's put on some good music and okay, let the games begin. The Tercoo disc struggled a bit to get started, but once it made a hole in the paint layer, it proved useful. I'll speed this part up to save you some valuable time. About 3 minutes in, my needle gun gave out. The central screw holding the spring mechanism together broke. It's a common issue, as you might have seen. Luckily, I have a few spare screws on hand. It's time for a repair, but hey, Tercoo disc, keep on grinding. Well, it seems like I better speed up this part a lot more. DJ, can we have another tune, please? The best way to use the Tercoo disc was to carve out the kind of a path and then destroy the small square it created, over and over again. Ah, Mr. Needlegun is back, for the last bit. think it's time to hit the fast forward button again. Well, it took over half an hour to remove the paint from a half square meter. 33 minutes and 20 seconds to be exact, which is nearly 7 times longer than the needle gun. It's pretty clear which tool I'd used to strip the middle section of the paint, but I promised you more than just a time comparison. The Tercoo disc has stripped it down to bare metal, even removing the protective layer, but the surface is perfectly smooth and rough enough to take a nice coat of primer. The surface has a sandblasted-like texture, not so rough, with smaller and more frequent pitting. The noise level is acceptable, and it's a tool you could work with for extended periods. The downsides, though? It was extremely time-consuming, nearly 7 times slower than the needle gun. And the disc itself is fragile. If you hit a corner or an exposed piece of steel at the wrong angle, the teeth of the disc can break, and they're not replaceable. The needle gun, on the other hand, leaves a rough, pitted surface that still needs a pass with a 40 grit orbital sander to get it ready for painting. The yellow chromatic paint layer that once protected the steel after fabrication is left intact. I'm happy about that. It was incredibly fast, so satisfying to see the progress. And it's a sturdy tool. You won't have to worry about dangerous spots. You can go over anything and the needles will fill the gaps nicely. However, it's extremely loud. When you're hammering on a steel box like this one, the whole neighborhood hears it. According to the manual, you should only needle gun for a maximum of 30 minutes before letting the machine cool down. And you'll be in desperate need of a break too. Well, we better continue while the sun's out. Maestro, music please. Meanwhile, my father was working on the port side of the cabin, sanding it, carefully applying a first coat to better identify the highs and the lows, and then going over it with a grinder and a 40 grit sandpaper. I'll quickly tackle the spots that suffered the most rust with the mighty needle gun, and then the finishing touch with a 60 grit orbital sander. Cleaning the whole surface with acetone to eliminate any possible contamination before applying the first coat of primer. I thank you all for joining me once again. See you soon and calm seas to you all.